Muévame, vamos, que vamos. So hello, SIDSEL. I'm super happy to meet you today. And it's the first time we have this opportunity to talk together. And well, this is the traditional first question of mine. Could you introduce yourself in a few words?
Yeah, my name is SIDSEL Enderesen, and I'm a singer. I've been working professionally for about 45 years now, altogether. I found out. I thought that was a surprise how long it is, you know. I work for the past 20 or so years. I've worked mainly within genre-free improvisation. Before that, I worked a lot with my own singing, songwriting. I've done some composing, some commissioned pieces. I've worked with dancers and actors and poets. Yeah, so it's quite a variety of work.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's
so interesting. And what style of music do you consider belonging to? How would you describe your musical style?
Well, as I said, you know, for the past 20 years, it's within the what I call the genre-free improvisational field. I try to avoid using the term free improvisation because I no improvisation is ever free. It's always informed. So, but genre-free is okay. I prefer to work in a quite taboo-free zone of music, so that yeah, that is enough.
Okay. And did you study music somewhere? Were you in a school, or have you worked with teachers, or was it only on your own that you've learned everything?
I'm mainly self-taught, but I have had over the first years. I contacted many performers and both instrumentalists and singers and asked for classes. So I've had a few private lessons with different people. That could be anything from singers I admired or felt a connection to drummers or piano players or, you know, or trumpet players or, you know, depending on what I was, depending on the thematics on which I had questions at any given time. So, but mainly self-taught, yeah.
Okay. And could you talk about the importance for you of transmission?
Yeah, I was wondering, because I put a big question mark there. I don't really understand the term.
Okay, so is it something important for you, to the idea of transmitting something? Well, or just tell me what is important in your vision of music. I know you teach a lot.
Yeah.
And so according to you, what is important to transmit or to give to the singing students?
That's a big question. What I think the main thing for me is to liberate the student, you know, to make the student kind of like an expert on him or herself. So I like to concretize things and problems. I think art is concrete in a way, or mainly. So I like to give the students or to strengthen the idea of developing tools for themselves, you know. Yeah.
And do you teach only to jazz singers or only
No,
or
I have
also to instrumentalists?
Yeah, also instrumentalists, some like one-to-one lessons, and also I teach groups in improvisation.
Okay.
All instruments, and yeah. So yeah, but the main bloody hell, I can't speak English suddenly.
That's okay. Take your
Yeah.
time.
So, but a lot of singers. Yeah. I started teaching in 1987. I really enjoy teaching. You know, I think it sharpens me. Also, I like the dialogue with, in a teaching situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you teach in several schools, or?
No, it's mainly the Norwegian Academy of Music has been my teaching place.
Okay. Is
Over
it
the
in
years.
Oslo?
In Oslo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's always only been like a percentage of my activity, because I've been my artistic work, you know, my own work.
Of course.
I've been busy
Okay.
doing concerts and touring and things all through the years. So, but always this smaller portion of teaching. So now I am. Some years ago they made me a professor.
Okay.
At the Norwegian Academy of Music, and which is astounding because I don't have a formal education.
Okay. Yes, I understand. And let's talk a bit about the repertoire. So, is the great repertoire of American jazz standards important to you in your musical path, or never? It was never something you really focused on?
Yeah, for early on, and I mean, I still listen to people who work within the classical jazz forms. There are many singers who I consider to be like jazz singers.
Okay.
On the proper term, who I still listen to. Early on, it was, of course, something that interested me. So for a while, I went into the problematics of jazz harmonics and improvising over chord sequences, etc. You know.
Yeah, I know.
I did the work
Okay.
that way. But gradually, my own wish to make my own musical landscapes and to write music myself, and then gradually also working towards more and more improvisation. So it's been a long time now since I worked with any kind of classical jazz material. Yeah.
And what about the musical tradition of your country, Norway?
Yeah, in Norway, I think we are in a kind of a unique position because our folk music and the Sami music is a very present. It's very present in our society. So you hear a lot of it on the radio. Norwegians seem to like their own folk music, yeah,
Okay.
the traditional Norwegian folk music, the fiddle players, the singers, and there's a huge interest for Sami music, which has been growing over the years.
Just to be sure to understand, it's the Sami music?
Sami music, yeah, are the indigenous population in Norway are the Sami people.
Okay.
Yeah. So this music,
it's still very present in the.
It's present, yeah.
Yes.
which I think is fairly unique when I look around in the rest of the world. You know, it's I think the traditional forms or the indigenous musics is very marginalized.
Okay.
In most European and countries, and also in other continents. So yeah, so it's not something I have ever gone deeply into or studied. You know, the Norwegian traditional music, but it's always been there, like a sound continuum, you know.
Okay.
Like
And
an
do you think
ambience.
Sorry?
Like an ambience, you know,
Yes,
it's
okay.
something that's always been there.
Yes.
Come on, and I'm sure that way it has kind of influenced me, you know.
Okay.
But not in a conscious manner.
Okay.
But unconsciously, yeah.
Yes. And do you think it's the this folk music? So you are saying it's unconscious, but do you think sometimes also when you write music, it's there, not only when singing, but also?
Yeah, as I say, it's a kind of a silent kind of reference, you know. It's I cannot, you know, pinpoint or put my finger on concrete you know, elements from traditional music that I've actually used. I'm also very influenced by the Anglo-American singer-songwriting music forms, and also of contemporary music forms. So it's all a mix, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And do you create a link between tradition and modernity?
Yeah. Modernity is a kind of it's a difficult term, I think. Modern, I don't know what's modern and what's not.
Do you prefer contemporary, or is it another meaning of music? When you talk about contemporary music, it's really something different than modern music.
Yeah, because when I talk about contemporary music, it's like that has its own history, which is quite long, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but the term modern, I don't know what modern music is. You know, I find that music changes all the time.
It's true.
And I think that everything sits on something else. So whether you want to or not, you know, you are sitting on something. You are a carrier of, you know, historical references, whether you know it or you don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think what's very special with your music, or unique, is and also modern, is that you innovate so much. You know. So yeah, I think it's really, to me, it's really modern what you do, in the way of that you always try to have new sounds or new, you know, new elements in your music.
I think maybe it's a mixture of being influenced by so many sources, you know. I think I have been lucky in the way that I've been working in a time when the possibility of defining the music, your music, is greater than maybe maybe than before. But I think that new, you know, something sounds new or innovative or something. Over time, that would also become a convention, yeah, and a kind of a tradition, and other people use part of whatever is innovated, including myself, you know. So new conventions are established, and new traditions arise over time. So, yeah.
Well, you know, I have interviewed several European singers, and many of them talk about you as a source of inspiration. I don't know if you were aware of this or not.
Yeah.
Like SIDSEL.
Very
And
nice.
I do agree.
Thank you. That's very nice.
And well, yeah, if we have a look at all your discography since the 80s, we have this impression that you kind of open new path to the European vocal jazz. I don't know if it's an idea that you have to.
No, but I think that there's one piece of work that I did do. You know, when I started wanting to work with improvisation in some form or other. The only tools that I found were within the classical jazz idiom. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was kind of learning and adopting the tools that the instrumentalists used, you know. Okay. The voice when improvising, like in scat singing, is very much a copy of the behavior, the musical behavior of instruments like saxophones, trumpet, drums, you know. And so I thought, okay, so how am I going to try to research my own voice and my own musical landscapes and the role of the voice in those. And as I said, I was influenced by very many sources, including ethnic music, you know, like Arabic music or Japanese singing, you know, where I don't understand the words, but so everything is like a huge soundscape, you know.
Yeah.
And
maybe you can talk about
and also the contemporary music. And so I drew more inspiration from those sources than I did from scat singing, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So and then I worked out a kind of methodology for myself, you know, how to rehearse, how to investigate my own voice. Yeah.
And do you want to tell us more about this method?
It was mainly to concretize what is it I'm doing, you know, what is which parameters are active at any point. And so I looked at what possibilities I could take from, for instance, the terms that they use within contemporary music composing, like density, fields of energy, the forms and shapes, you know, the structures. So I looked at that, and there were points of interest there for me.
Okay.
And then how do you say? I worked out anyway. It's too long to talk about, you know. But over a couple of years, I worked out a kind of a system which is based on something I call the 4 parameters.
Okay.
Which is basically a development from, you know, the basic phenomenology of music. Like if you go into a piano teacher when you are a child, you know, they talk about height of tone, length of tone, strength of tone, and klang, timbre of tone.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, that's fairly clarifying, you know, it's quite concrete. But how can I make a system that works for me? So I made a system where I talk about time as the first parameter, anything connected to time, you know. And a parameter called dynamics instead of strength of tone. I call it dynamics, you know, anything connected to
yes.
Dynamics. And the third was the sound character, you know, just the shaping of the sound, the klang in your voice. And the fourth one is everything tonal, melodic, harmonic. And so I inverted the hierarchy of this system so that I put time first and tonal harmonic stuff as the last parameter. And that is because I noticed in myself, and also when I was teaching, that when people improvised, when singers I had, improvised, they went straight into the harmonic, melodic, tonal parameter, yeah? Mm-hmm. And the other parameters were then kind of deactivated or even sleeping, and not really utilized for the potential of creativity and variety, which lies in the other parameters. So then what I did was I worked with fairly small sound cells in the voice, and I treated them through these 4 parameters. So with main focus on one parameter at a time. It may not, it's difficult to do because the moment you open your mouth and, and make a sound, all 4 parameters are active, yeah? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But full focus on time then, for instance. So I did these stretches of improvising with only focus on time. And I discovered that there were possibilities there that could last you a lifetime, just by using that one parameter. And so I did the same with dynamics, and I did the same with the shaping of the sound character, yeah. And finally with the tonal, melodic, harmonic aspects. And through this work, which lasted a long time, mm-hmm. On my own, in my own little studio, I developed quite an enormous array of material, which over time becomes kind of integrated knowledge, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's a source for you for me, when I improvise.
Wow.
And the other aspect of improvisation is that when I work with straight material, making songs or whatever, the starting point is always improvised, isn't it? So through all this work I understood the value of working with limitations. That limitation is the mother of invention, as I mm-hmm. say. Mm-hmm. So the difference between working without limitations, you end up doing pretty much the same shit over and over again, yeah? But with limitations, you become truly creative. So it's a very systematic, very concrete and very systematic work, with, so that's how I worked,
It's so interesting. Wow.
Okay.
It's amazing. Yeah, really. I would love to come and see you working with your students.
Oh.
It would be amazing. Yeah. Yes. Wow. And so you were talking about your different influences. So you were talking about, for example, Japanese music or different kind of music, contemporary music. But do you have also, are you influenced also by other singers or instrumentalists?
Yes, of course. And it changes.
Okay.
Over 45 years, it's been continuously changing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yes, of course, I've listened to so many singers. And then according to where my own interest goes, then of course I discover some new people, and of course strong instrumentalists also have been extremely important. Some composers have been extremely important, just as a source of inspiration,
And could you just name a few of those singers or instrumentalists or composers?
Oh, Nina Simone, Joni Mitchell, of course. Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, Chet Baker. I'm just trying to think back now to some of the Nancy Wilson, Miles Davis, of course, and then composers like John Cage, for instance, just because he. I've also read a lot of his writings. You know, I find him like he's like a philosopher for me, like a music philosopher. People like Morton Feldman, I think, as a composer, just the purity of his music. I mean, it's difficult for me to mention like a whole list of.
No, you don't have to.
Things.
It was just to have.
Lately, I've been interested in there's a singer called Agnes Vistalek, who works very strictly with sound cells and with, you know, and she does it in a astoundingly good way.
Okay, great.
Oh, but it keeps changing, and there are, of course, quite a few Norwegian artists who I am interested in.
Okay.
And then it's, you know, it's like my brain goes a little bit blank, you know, when I'm asked who, you know, about main influences and things, because there are so many.
Yes, of
Barbara,
course.
there are so many.
Of course.
Is that important for you that I should mention?
No, that's enough. No. That's enough. Don't worry. So you were also talking about the melody and harmony, which were in your
my method. Hierarchy. Yeah.
you tried to change it, but how? What is the role of melody for you? Which place does the melody part have in your singing?
Yeah, melody is, of course, I think because I'm a singer and because of where I started musically, melody is like a very essential skeleton, like a main shape and form. I believe also that singers have, because they have dealt with this kind of form and structure always, like the main structure of a piece of music. I find that singers are actually quite good at developing form and structure also when they improvise. It's like in our blood somehow.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Melody is also, it's like it's a very relational aspect of music. It's talking to many other elements in any musical setting. It ties together things. It kind of can pinpoint the excellence of any chord sequence, you know, like the function of the melody is a highlighting function somehow. Yeah, I don't.
Okay. I think you mainly sing in English, but sometimes also in your native language.
Not in a literarily understandable fashion. No.
Okay.
So
maybe I thought it was
exactly
Norwegian, but it was not. Maybe.
No, I think that's my part of my improvisational sound palette, you know, is sound languages. No, sound, the language sounds.
Okay.
I find it natural because the voice is the only language carrying instrument of all the instruments. Only the voice can carry language sounds. So it's natural for me to go into the language. So I work a lot with phonetics, you know, like the small parts of language. vowels, consonants, diphthongs, because it's a source for me. It's a source material.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And so is it important to have to transmit a message with the lyrics, or do you rather use your voice as an instrument to convey emotions without words?
Yeah. Touching on something which I don't think I've ever thought so much about giving a message. I do believe that the different elements speak for themselves, so that the lyrics speak when we're talking about straight songs. Yeah, yes. The lyrics speak for themselves. I have never worked with subtexts because subtext like lonely, longing, angry, whatever. I've never used that because I find it just confusing the issue. I think the subtexts or like this emotional or psychological subtext, they always need a process of translation into some kind of understanding or tool which you can use, musically.
Yes.
Also, I have great confidence in that the lyrics speak for themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
And that I am a conveyor of those lyrics when I sing. I'm a channel. Yeah.
Yes.
So in a way, I think my focus is mainly on being as good a musician as I can be, as clear, as precise, as, I've been more concerned with timing and phrasing than with the content, the psychological content, What was your question? Sorry, I'm digressing.
No, I mean, you are answering perfectly. It's really super interesting, everything you are saying. So I'm just listening to everything. And the question is just, to let you talk about your music and your voice and your vision of music. So it's totally perfect.
No, I also think that what I've found interesting also is that language has an active role in shaping the musical factors, like just the pronunciation of a language will have something to do with your musical phrasing. Yeah. So it's a carrier of meaning, of course, literary meaning, but it is also an active musical factor.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you listen to someone singing in a language you do not understand, you hear it as music, yeah?
Yes.
So with the phonetics, and when you think I sing Norwegian, maybe in some of my treatment of the use of phonetics is colored by the fact that I do speak Norwegian, It is my speaking language. So maybe the presence and the melody of that language is more present when I work improvisationally.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And in your sound palette, what is the place for space and silence?
Oh, I really like that question because I think silence is an active musical factor, and it is just as active as the uttered sound. It makes no sense to not how can I say that in any articulate way? I think you need the spaces and the silences, the pauses, for letting the echo of something be present, something that is not articulated and given to you, like but something which awakens something in the listener also, which is another aspect of this silence. Yeah. Does that answer your question at all, Barbara?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You don't have to worry at all. And how do you work on rhythm, if you work on rhythm?
Oh, I can't separate rhythm from the time parameter.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Which was one of your.
Yeah, it's for me, time is maybe the most important. I think the universe is rhythmical, you know. So.
Okay.
Timing is everything for me, you know. But could you specify that question? You know, when you about the rhythm.
I know that for several singers, rhythm comes as the last point. You know, they first think, oh, as a singer, I have to do the focus on the melody and on the harmony.
Exactly,
and
my point.
They don't really think about rhythm or, as you say, about
time.
Yeah. But I think it's very important, and it's all connected. So I just wanted to know if for you the focus was also on the rhythm or on the time.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I'm in my own toolbox, you know. I try to transmit that to the students because of what you said, and the fact that we are so concerned with the tonal, melodic, harmonic aspects that we automate the use of time, you know.
Yes, of course.
So in this large parameter called time, of course, there is all questions of rhythmification and those kind of issues. I think music is a dance, you know, somehow. But and I find the connection easy to find because the voice is so body-based and body-defined, you know. This is my sound chamber, you know.
Yes.
And therefore, singing for me is something. It feels connected to my muscles and my bones and my, you know, my physical being. And sometimes when I've done stuff, you know, I have been sometimes working with composers who have written very difficult music and with very difficult, you know, very complex time changes. You know, you've probably done this yourself. And I discovered that if I kind of danced the rhythms, I got a different understanding of it than counting, you know.
Of course, yes, yeah. Because the body understands.
Yeah, the body understands. There's a, yeah, thank you. Yes. So time and rhythm. I think rhythm also is, everything is in a way rhythmic, even if it doesn't have a metric time signature, you know, it is, we are living in waves and pulses and fragments of time, you know. So,
absolutely.
So quite essential.
And to what extent do you take risk and let go when improvising? I think for you, it was never a problem just to let go while improvising, or am I wrong?
When I do the actual work, you know, in a concert, I try to get out of my head, you know, and I try to rely on and have great confidence in all the groundwork I've done, you know. I do a lot of analyzing of recordings of concerts. I never listen to the concerts that went really well, because I just want to keep that, you know, okay, we had a happy feeling for that concert. So I don't listen to it or analyze it, you know. But the ones that went shitty, the ones that were bad, I listened to, and I tried to find out what did I do, or what did someone do that made everything stop, you know, that, you know, what went wrong. So I do a lot of that kind of analytical work. But in the concert situation, when I play, I do want to let go. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think I could let go in any kind of successful way if I hadn't done the groundwork, you know. I've done a lot of groundwork, and I think it's necessary. You know? So, but yeah, I want to let go.
Okay. Do you also play an instrument? Another instrument than voice?
No, I can use the piano, you know, use that when I made songs and things before, but it's very limited, you know. I can play a little bit of guitar, you know. Again, extremely limited. So the voice is my main tool, you know, also compositionally, or, you know, when I made music, you know, pre-organized music before, I used to use the voice quite a lot in kind of doing the different layers in a piece of music. Yeah.
And do you have a process to compose? Do you have a technique now when you compose, or is it just?
Yeah, it could be, you know, the starting point for things could be very different. It could be an idea. It could be a mood. It could be an approach to something which I had heard from someone else, you know, which triggered a kind of response or idea in me. I can have a starting point where I have like a rhythmic focus, you know, and then I work with the voice on that and see where it goes. Could be a small motif, yeah. It could be about the lyrics having the main role, something, you know. But I do, you know, when it comes to like composing straight material, I find myself more limited there than I do when I improvise. I feel that improvisation for me has represented a way of using my whole musicality, yeah, in a far greater degree. I'm much more self-censorious, yeah, I'm censoring myself a lot when I used to write.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you work with musicians who write music that you play together, or?
No, the past 20 years I work only with people who improvise.
Okay.
So it's kind of real-time composition then. So I work with strong performers.
That's for sure.
And they kind of educate me. We educate each other as we improvise with each other. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And about those collaborations, which one are very important? One would you talk?
Oh, that's difficult for me.
Yeah, I know.
You know? No, it's hard. Yeah. I think every collaboration I've had has been important, you know. I've learned something, and some I've left the collaboration because we maybe went in different directions, or I was looking for something else. So it's a long process, and I cannot say that when I look back at all the people I've played with, I've always gotten something of value from each collaboration. You know, I think that's the wonderful thing about music, is that it is the ultimate way of having a true dialogue, you know. So something good always happens, and then there can be some shit that happens, you know, but something good always happens, and I learn something from everyone. But I was because I was thinking, okay, so which of my own records could I listen to again? I don't listen very much to my own recordings, you know, and less over the years. And I think there are two recordings which kind of I still feel a sense of happiness about.
Yes.
And that is So I Write, my first record on ECM.
The one I love.
Yeah, because it was created in a time when I was so fed up with my own vocals and my own vocal mannerisms. And so I went through a process where I thought, okay, I'm going to cut everything down to the bone. I'm not going to perfume anything. I'm not going to, you know, extremely strict work, you know. And it seemed to bring me to a kind of a truthful place. Yeah. And the process, and also the collaboration with Manfred at that time, and the wonderful, excellent musicians, you know, like Django, Bates and Nils Petter and John Christensen, and, you know, it was just such a happy moment. So I Write, I can still listen to and get kind of that good feeling. And the other one is actually Merrywinkle, a record I did with Christian Wallumrød and Helge Steen, which is totally improvised, but kind of ending up like some kind of songscapes, which is very strange, you know, because it was totally free improvised. I like it because of the relationships between us, and I think the fact that I did some things that I had never done before. You know, I had an approach to that collaboration, which was different from some others. Yeah. So those two records I can still listen to, and there are maybe bits and pieces of other recordings that I feel good about. Yeah. And that I can listen to.
When you go into a studio, do you, well, how am I going to ask this question? So when it's only improvised music, do you already have an idea about where you want to go in a form, or in a song, or I don't know, in a moment? You know, or do you let it absolutely open, and it's just on the moment itself for each tune, or, you know?
I think the way I improvise, I really want to go from zero.
Okay.
Always, every time, because I've from experience, to have plans or strategies are not a good idea. Doesn't work as a good motor for me. But there could be, I think it depends on where I am in my own musical development. There are, of course, some issues that are kind of lying in the back of my mind, you know, that I would like to check out, or you know. There's also always the fact that, you know, when you work with improvisation, like within any other genre of music, you develop a kind of a repertoire for solutions, you know, and they are good to have, you know, but they are also dangerous, because you end up using solutions instead of being open to the actual musical situation. Yeah. So that's it depends on when. There are issues I have with myself and with the people I collaborate with, that I am not, I set up no-go signs for myself, you know, you will not go there, you know, you are not allowed to use that solution so then I have to, something else has to happen, you know. I need to open up for other possible solutions to an improvisational problematic. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but in the studio, I find that recording free improvised music is very hard in studio. I find it better for me to record concerts.
Okay.
Yeah. The studio situation reminds me of a different situation which is working with pre-organized material, where I used to love the fact that you could edit and you could do it again. You know, you could try to better yourself in the situation. With this genre-free area that I prefer to work in now, it doesn't really make sense.
Okay.
I don't like editing improvised music. And that is because I think that I like the themes to be shown. Yeah, I like it. I'm more interested in the process than I am in the result.
Okay.
That is something which has changed in me over the past 20 years. Gradually, I see that, you know, I'm less and less interested in the final product, you know, but I am deeply interested in the process of improvisation. And that's why the studio is opening up for too many edit possibilities. And I don't want to go there, because I think that if you do a bad stretch or a kind of an unfocused transport stretch, as I call it, everyone who, you know, you feel it like a physical, it's a bad place. But then, okay, so you make some choices and things happen. And suddenly there is this stretch, which is great, you know. So if you cut away the bad stretch or the transport or the non-directional stuff that has been just before, if you cut that out, there is no reason for this part, the good part, to have developed. Yeah,
of course.
So I like to see the connection. Yeah. And I think that's how we are as human beings also.
That's true.
So yeah, totally. Does this
true.
answer your question? I feel
yes.
I'm done.
Okay. Of course. And do you spend time working on effects and electronics also?
For a while, this is many years ago, I tried working with like Jamman or like loop stations, and there's a box called Electrics where you could record and work on this. But at some point I understood that if I want that to become good, you know, working with electronics, I would have to spend my life on that, you know.
That's true.
Because I didn't want to end up just singing on top of some vocal loops, you know. Yes. I found it extremely boring. So I thought, okay, so what I'll do then instead, I won't work with electronics, but I will work with people who are really good with live electronics, you know, and who can sample me and work with it. So with Jan Bang, I don't know if you know, he's in kind of electronics with, we have a duo. You should check out Jan Bang. He has some good stuff.
Okay.
And he works with his sampler and his effects like it is a proper instrument. You know, he's so skilled with it. and we do concert where he samples me from, so his box is empty, and then we go to work, and it's very exciting. Yeah, so I wanted to, I made a choice quite early on that I wanted to be able to do different things with my voice in natura. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the main gist of my work then has been to research and investigate what my voice can do, and the musical and the communicative aspects of this kind of extended vocal techniques that I developed, you know.
Yeah.
So, which I find more interesting.
Okay.
Than working with effects. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it can change from time to time, but what is your relationship with your own instrument, with your own voice?
Yeah, it changes, as you say. It's not. I think I'm generally happy to be a singer. Mm-hmm. You know. And I find it an interesting instrument in every way. I also have an affinity for these like primal instruments, the drums and the voice, you know. It's like
yes,
and the strings and stuff came later, you know, and the things to blow on came later, but the voice and the drums, I think, is like makes it's interesting for me. And I like the fact that it is so that it is an instrument which is shared by everyone, you know. Everyone can sing, yeah. Or they use their voice. Anyway, the downside of being a singer sometimes is that it is kind of filterless. Yeah, in some instances, I would have liked to be a different instrument. Yeah, which doesn't have all the expressiveness kind of baked into it. And, you know, when you work with more experimental music or extended vocal techniques, people are people are often a little bit suspicious about the value of what you do, or if it contains any kind of expertise or work behind it, you know.
Okay.
While a piano player can throw his whole kitchen drawer into the piano and people say, wow, you know. Or the saxophone player can stuff a sock into his saxophone. People, oh, you know, people have. And I would have liked sometimes that it's a kind of a freedom that lies in the fact that people respect that the piano player knows something about his instrument, which they don't know about, you know. So, but on the technically with my voice, I've had many issues through the years. I think I've become quite good at doing good exercises, you know, with it, and trying to develop like the range, and, you know, so I'm better in the higher area now than I was in earlier years.
Really?
Yeah, which is strange, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just a kind of accumulating knowledge about how your voice works, you know, which I think I've been fairly good at, keeping up this kind of work up until today, even when I'm and I do yeah, I think it's enough. I think I've said enough pieces. Yeah. But they are thought-evoking questions, so which is good. Yeah.